Welcome back. I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Acton Auto Boutique in Acton, Massachusetts, we've got our hands on this 2006 BMW Z4M Roadster. It's powered by an S54 inline 6 3.2 liters, producing 330 horsepower to the rear wheels. You'll be very familiar with this powertrain because this is what powered the E46 M3. And even though this is a stylistic change for BMW, it's very cool to see that they were using that power plant in the Z4M. Now, they did use this S54 in the prior generation, the Z3M Coupe and Roadster. And although I do personally think that the Z3 is a better looking car, this still has a really distinct personality, and I think it grew on me quite a bit. What's interesting about this car is that there's a little bit of Z1 in it, but now in 2023 you can really start to see the G42 and G87 2 Series and M2, especially in the rear end of this car. If you just put those taillights a little further out and put a couple bulges in there, boom, you can see the progression. So maybe the new 2 Series, love it or hate it, didn't come out of nowhere. It definitely has some heritage. Back here, we've got our quad-tipped exhaust. That's how you know this is an M car from behind if you haven't stared at the giant badge. But this deck lid has a beautiful shape to it. You can see the curves that kind of build into this little built-in lip spoiler. And of course, it's just a little 2-seater Roadster, all coming in a manual 6-speed. They did make a coupe version, and although I do believe a clown shoe Z3 with an S54 is absolutely the move, I think these look pretty good in coupe and Roadster form. Today, getting older, I think Roadster is the way to go because I love having the top down. Up front, you start to see a bit of 6 Series in the nose. You can really tell what's coming out in the BMW world. Gluing us to the road up front is a 255 section tire mounted to an 18-inch wheel, and in the rear, a 255 section tire to manage that torque. It's a nice short little wheelbase. You're sitting pretty close to those rear wheels, so it is fun to drive. Let's take a look under the hood. But first, wow, look at these seats. These are beautiful seats. You've got the M on the headrest, and I think this is just a beautiful thin little seat. I think these would look really good in an E46 M3. On hood struts, luxury, yes, we have our beautiful S54, the stuff of dreams. This is what everybody wants to transplant into their E36 race cars because this is such a cool engine. You've got individual throttle body, something we did not get on the S52 on the E46 M3 in the North American market. Yes, you Europeans got a very beautiful, fun, and much more powerful S52. We did not. So when this S54 dropped stateside, it was a very big deal around 2001. And this feels a little bit like a kit car, like a swapped out engine, because it's just wild that they even put this in the Z4. Look at all the rube you've got up over there. And in the boot, reasonable trunk space. Definitely enough room for some golf clubs and a couple bags. This is a proper driver's car. You could take this on a weekend trip. You could daily drive the heck out of it if you'd like. Some interesting styling cues to me. It starts to get some more sharp edges, which we did not see on BMWs in the past. But look at this. This is your turning indicator on the side of the vehicle. It looks like the predecessor to a 7 Series iDrive knob. That is a monster. And the cabin is relatively simple. So let's jump in this Interlagos blue Z4M Roadster and take it for a little drive. We do have some storage back here. I guess we'll throw our extra sets of keys there. And oddly enough, we've got an SOS and a maintenance call button in the center. Interesting. And to start our M Roadster, key in the ignition, very simple stuff. This all starts to feel very E46. Now, although the gauge cluster is very different from that of the M3, it still does have the lights for the tachometer that tell you where you can rev it to based on how warm the engine is. You've got an oil temperature gauge here. That is critical because you want to get this 10W60 nice and warm between those two dots before you start to push it. Now, I do prefer the E46 gauge cluster to this, but this will do. It's fine. It's not terribly difficult to read, and because it's an M, you do have red needles on the gauges. This one only has 17,805 miles on it. What a treat to drive a nearly new Z4. You've got cup holders over here and over there. Very awkward and strange, and I'm sure people complained about these, but then Porsche came out with theirs here, and I'm sure people were like, you know what? We're gonna stop complaining about these. We've got a power roof, power seats, heated seats, and that power roof is fantastic because it moves pretty darn quick, meaning that you can throw this up or down at a red light without breaking a sweat. No getting out of the car. It's not like a Porsche Spyder situation. Now, this does have a sport button, which actually helps a lot because no, it doesn't add any power and it doesn't necessarily make the car more sporty. However, it does sharpen up that throttle map, so a smaller amount of throttle goes a little further, something that we had in E46 as well. It just makes rev matching a little easier. But 10% of throttle goes a little too far. So like I would actually want like a pedal commander type setup where I could customize the map of the throttle, because I feel like the regular mode is too soft, the sport mode is too harsh. I need a little more linearity in between. This is a great little 6-speed manual. It's not quite as rubbery as, say, the E46 M3. It might be the same, it might not. I mean, honestly, it feels a little better. It feels a little shorter than the M3 shifter. One would assume that they maybe sported it up for the Roadster. Steering wheel, it's a little thick. It's a little thicker than it needs to be, but the steering weight is lovely. It's a little heavier than you would anticipate. I feel like even back then, BMW was going to some sort of heavy steering vibes to signify that they had something sporty. Brakes are just phenomenal in this car. They're very simple. They're not big monoblocks or anything, but they do the job. We've got a limited slip differential in the back, helping us put power down. And this engine just sounds fantastic. It climbs and climbs to redline, revs to almost 8,000 RPM. And some people don't love the mechanical sound of an S54. In my opinion, this is one of the greats. This is such a beautiful sounding thing. The car feels big enough to be a daily driver. It's so usable in like every scenario. The revs drop really fast, and that's great for some sporty, aggressive driving. Everybody hates rev hang, but there's a little bit of rev hang would go a long way in this car. Because when you go for that upshift, you always feel like, oh man, I gotta bring the revs back. And sure, you could say, well, Tom, just shift a little faster. The gearbox with this shifter, it doesn't want to shift faster. It's not happy being pummeled like a Camaro. So if you shift it at the speed it wants to be shifted, you get a little bit of that laggy sensation. But man, this thing's connected. The front of this car feels fantastic. I genuinely miss suspensions like this, where they were not shattering your teeth and trying to be so stiff to let you know that I am a sports car. No, this is comfortable. It's got a little bit of body roll. There's some pitch and there's some dive to it. Something that is just gone today. Everything is so ridiculously rigid now. It's unreal. I miss this. I miss a sports car that was comfortable to drive. It's hard to find it, especially with an M badge on it today. This clutch pedal is the perfect weight. It's daily drivable, it's sporty, and there's some tactility at the bite point. Also, it doesn't have the sensation of a two-stage like helper spring. The new M2 has this, and it drives me insane. This is the same sort of spring rate the whole way through the clutch. I think this car is easier to drive aggressively. I think when you're like really on it and you're pushing, it all flows. At low and mid RPM, it feels, I'm a little clunkier with it. Like I feel like, oh, it's not meshing quite right. Like I'm not moving fast enough for it. But you don't always want to be just like slamming gears in your car, especially when you're just like taking off at a green light and you're not racing anybody, you're just driving. Super stable on the highway. You can see a little bit of that body roll like I was talking about before, but it feels planted. It doesn't feel like a go-kart. You could definitely do, triple digit speeds with ease. By today's standards, nothing from this era is really that fast. I mean, I remember when I was a teenager, a girl from high school that I knew, her dad had bought a brand new 2004 E46 M3. He gave me a ride in this car. I remember him telling me like, wow, this is the fastest thing I've ever owned. Me being a complete BMW fanboy, eating all of this up and him telling me about how it just makes driving on the highway incredibly easy because every gap is yours. You see it, you point, you shoot, it goes. And then driving them, I felt that way. I thought, wow, this is so fast. And then over the past, 15 years or so, cars have gotten so ridiculously fast. Not even talking about the Teslas of the world, that this doesn't feel like something you wouldn't give your 17-year-old kid. Now, it would be a phenomenal gift. I don't mean it that way. I just mean this is the kind of speed that I absolutely would not trust a teenager with when I was a teenager. But today there's so many cars that aren't even like the M variant. They're not even like the fast one, that are as fast, if not much faster than this. And that's so bizarre. But what this doesn't lose is the tactility and the driver feedback and engagement. So just because this maybe isn't the most ridiculously fast thing on the planet does not mean it is not incredibly rewarding to drive. and I've said it a million times. Oh my goodness, look at that green. That's the stuff. That's how you do a G-Wagon. This car feels like the end of an era where the body style is modern BMW. A big change was beginning to happen, but all the underpinnings feel like the stuff that made me fall in love with the brand. I love this engine. I love this driveline. It's rear-wheel drive. It's got an old-school manual 6-speed transmission and hydraulic steering, static suspension, no wizardry doing some adaptive craziness. This is a real BMW in modern BMW clothing, and that's pretty darn cool. So, I think if you're looking for that style, you want the engine, you can't afford to go buy yourself a Clown Shoe Z3 with an S54 because holy cow, did people start to really appreciate those and the prices reflect it. This might be your best bet. So, thank you so much to Acton Auto Boutique for tossing me the keys to this little icon. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.